And as I mentioned last week as well, that depression is the #1 disability on our planet. Okay? So we're not talking about something that's a fantasy anymore. This is a reality. Okay? And some of the numbers for PTSD, 70% of adults, okay, experience some kind of trauma. 70% of us. So if there's 100 of us in this room, 70 of us have experienced trauma, at least. Okay? 20% of those people will develop PTSD. Okay? Now, just because you have PTSD doesn't mean you're going to commit suicide. But it does mean we need to approach it and treat it somehow. Because usually, without treatment, some sort of acting out will happen. And that's what we're going to look for in the people that we encounter, whether they're friends, colleagues, whatever they might be, in order to maybe save one more person. One more. Because I don't know, like, for me, 810,000 is too many. Every 40 seconds is too much. Now I know that from myself, when I first came into recovery, I wanted to save everybody. I was like, have you seen this book? It's big. You should read this thing. And then I threw it at people, and I hit people with it. And then I realized, you know, I am one person. I need to start addressing the one person right in front of me. Whoever it might be. In any moment that it might be in. It's one person at a time. So for us, individually, collectively, we try to do the best we can with where we are. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't get upset by these global things, by these things that happen. Because I do. I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but when Peter's talking about what happened with the child and her dad, devastating. Devastating, right? And those things happen way too much. But that's why we can gather together and we can talk about these things. We can talk about the lifestyle of drug and alcohol abuse and the connection to that some homicides and suicides and all those different things, that it's a part of. But just because someone kills themselves with an overdose doesn't mean that all drug addicts are going to try to kill themselves with an overdose. Right? We know that because most of us in this room have experienced, I won't say all, because there are obviously some that haven't, but most of us have experienced some using too much of a drug. Or maybe I'm alone. I've used too much once or twice where I thought I might die, and then I tried to use more because I wanted to. But that's not indicative of everyone, right? That was my experience. However, we collectively, we go around the city and country and the world, and we go to these rooms where there's other people like us that have experience similar to us, and we're able to talk about it. But one of the things that we're not able to talk about in an open setting, most of the time, is suicide. Because it's morbid, right? But I'm going to leave you with 2 stories. And I think I have enough time. I do. We're running a little bit, but I'm going to tell you these 2 stories because I want you to leave with hope. Okay? Hope. So this past week, as I mentioned to start, I was approached, most of us were approached by someone or people, and people were talking about suicide. So I was approached by a girl who was here, and she said, you know, like, I got to tell you, someone saved my life and they don't even know it. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, a few years ago, she was on a bridge. The bridge over here that goes across the river into Bridgeland. Okay? She was climbing up on the railing, and a person walked by her and said, excuse me, do you need help? Excuse me, do you need help? And I was like, I'm tearing up because she was telling me the story, and she was like on the verge, she was going to jump. And this person didn't know her, had no idea what was going on. I mean, who knows? She could be going up on the railing just to look over, right? But the person thought, what's it going to harm if I ask? Because what's going to happen if I don't? So she said, this person saved my life. The simple fact that it was another human being that cared enough to ask. That was it. Right? And I thought, man, that's the person I want to be. That guy, right? Because I know I've been the other guy many times, especially when I was younger, where I'm like, oh, that's really too bad. I'm sorry you feel that way. See you later. Or I would walk by that person on the bridge, and I have to be honest, I probably just would have kept walking at some point. But this person reminded me that this is important that we do these things, right? And it wasn't anything to do with me, but it really did hit home. So then I was talking to another friend, and one of the things that he has dealt with was the fact that one of his best friends when he was younger committed suicide. And just before, the day of, this person had sat with him and asked him if he could sit for a coffee and a chat. And he said, no, I'm too busy. And the funny thing is that sometimes we're too busy. This is true, right? But he remembers acutely that his friend was distressed. There was stress in the voice, in the actions, in the thing. And he knew something was wrong, and he just didn't want to take 10 minutes. Right? Now, obviously, what I tell my friend is, it's not your fault. Right? It's not your fault. This is not your fault. Of course it's not. But the truth is, what he told me is probably more important. Right? He said, I know intellectually it's not my fault. But the truth is, I will always blame myself for not giving 10 minutes when I knew something was wrong. Now, obviously, if we don't know, we don't know. But we also know when we do. When we walk away from something and we say, I don't know. I'm just going to leave that alone. It's not my problem. And so now I'm going to close. I promise. But I'm going to close with some of the myths, okay? So that we can kind of take this with us as we leave. And again, I'm deciphering like code here with my chicken scratch. Okay, one of the myths. People who talk about it won't do it. That is untrue. Most of the people, almost everyone actually, who commits suicide or attempts suicide has given some clue. Some have come out right out and said it, and some people, like maybe when I was a young social worker, said, oh, like you're just attention grabbing. Well, you got my attention. Okay, so if we're going to talk about it, you got my attention. It's full, and I'm aware. So that's a myth, okay? Anyone who tries or commits suicide is crazy. That is not true. Now, it's true there's like emotional distress going on at that time, but that doesn't make them crazy. Emotional distress does not equal psychosis, right? Just, they're not doing the same. If a person wants to die, there's nothing that I can do to stop them. That's untrue, right? Now, I can't force someone not to do something or to do something. That's not the job or position in society that I have, right? But I certainly can ask questions, as we talked about, right? Because the more I get involved and ask questions, the less responsible for you I feel, right? And the more accountable we each are to our own things, okay? So if a person wants to die, there's nothing you can do. That's not true. There's lots you can do. We could be human beings, right? That's not a big deal. People who successfully commit suicide are people unwilling to seek help. That also is not true. Okay? In more than 50% of all people who commit suicide have sought medical attention or psychological attention within 6 months. The majority of those are within 1 month prior to committing suicide. Okay? So they tried. So it's not a matter of them not wanting help. Okay? Sometimes it's just a matter of, okay, this is going to happen because whatever is necessary isn't there. Okay? And where's my last one here? I'm going to try to decipher my code. Any code breakers? What's that? There's like several back there, right? Where were you in WW2? All right, that was it, guys. And so thank you for being here with us tonight again. I swear next week it's not going to be me talking about the same thing. It's not, right? Okay, I don't want to make any more amends. So it's not going to be me next week. But again, we're all participants in this world. So let's be participants with each other. And it's okay to ask questions and just have conversations. Okay? Thank you. And please join me in the Step 7 prayer. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Have a great week, you guys. Thank you.